This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
To say that the Toronto Maple Leafs beat Anaheim last night wouldn't do it justice.
Ugh.
That was a shellacking. Welcome to the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. I'm Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, Sammy McKee, and we welcome back Jen Rolnick.
Hey.
Big wave from Jen. Was that a straight-up trade, Frank the Tank, for Jen Rolnick? Was there anything else involved?
He had to clear waivers back to the minors, I think, after she returned from injury.
We're going to throw in a second to get Jen back.
First of all, we made Frank the Tank a star, okay? He ain't going back to the minors.
If people could see Frank with his beautiful long gray locks and his, CrossFit physique, I think he'd be a popular gentleman.
Bit of a weapon, that Frank.
Bit of a weapon. Frank could be 28 or 58, and I would not be surprised. I have absolutely no clue.
If Frank the Tank's working on Fallon, next week, I wouldn't be that surprised. That's what we do here.
We're like, is that the Tank?
Hey,
the Tank himself.
Yes, he's gone on to bigger and better things.
Took over for Paul Schaefer.
No questions asked.
That guy still around?
I don't know.
So, Sammy.
Yes, sir.
I think when we ended yesterday's show, I think you threw out a prediction of 7-1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can't.
You Leafs hater?
I can't remember. Was it 7-0 or
You said
7-1?
No, it was 7-1. You gave him a goal.
Crap. I should have said 7-0, but I also said Austin Matthews would score 4 goals, and he merely got an assist.
Yeah,
so.
don't listen. I've built you up there. Don't strip yourself back down.
Listen, I heard a lot of trap game talk.
Justifiably
people were
so.
saying that, and we had the conversation like, "Oh, well, this would be a spot the old Leafs." No, it wasn't. The Ducks are just too bad.
You know what else, too? The Ducks were off a tail end of a back-to-back. They got shut out the night before by Ottawa.
So that's almost as if they didn't play the night before. that doesn't. When you don't score the night before, that
Doesn't
should count for like half a game.
Yeah, well,
not a full game.
Well, then they have combined over those 2 games to play 1 full game because, they didn't score in either contest.
They couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat.
Oh, man. I tweeted, do you think the trainers had to wash the equipment after the game? Like, they had to wash jerseys, or they just fold them right back up for the next match? That looked like...
We'll get into Toronto, but that's the type of game that gets your head coach fired.
Oh, man. Yes, I agree. In Toronto, in this market, to lay an egg like that. I mean, the amount of times guys were just standing beside the guy shooting it in the net. I wrote an article today on some of that, but Bunting's goal, there's a guy standing beside him. And Joey Anderson's goal, there's a guy standing beside him. John Tavares' goal, he's wearing a guy like a backpack. And Mitch Marner's wearing Zegras on his back for that goal too.
And that's coming off of hiring a new general manager in Pat Verbeek, building a new department, and you want your head coach, Dallas, to at least have them lose games on a better look than that.
Yeah.
They have to show up. Everybody knows that they don't have the talent to compete, but
neither do a lot of teams. Arizona doesn't.
But you should have enough to battle and to show that the issues with the team are on us to get more talent here. Not looking at you and saying, hey, guys, you can't mail it in.
No, you can't just not try. Look at the first goal the Leafs score. Connor Timmins is standing behind the net, a set breakout, so the Ducks can get into their set forecheck. They get to pick where their players are on the ice. He makes one pass to Pierre Engvall, and it's a 3-on-2. How does it break down that badly, that quickly? Do they not know where to stand? Do they not want to do what the coach wants them to do?
I thought the most embarrassing part of the whole night was that story they told in the broadcast about him getting that picture taken down.
You know what? I said the same thing.
And he's like, it was a draw. I'm like, oh my God.
So
it gets
Wendell.
I thought, was he joking? He must have been joking that it was a draw.
No, it didn't come across as a
I
joke.
don't know. The way that she was talking about. Anyways.
Okay, hold on. There's some people that didn't hear the whole story. So why don't you reiterate?
Well,
there are pictures of him fighting
Well, one of the famous picture of Wendell Clark where he's looking like
Just
Ali.
looking like
he's
a
got,
rough
He's got
guy.
the hand in front of him, and there's a Winnipeg Jet lying on the
Dallas
ground.
Eakins is the guy that Wendell Clark fought in a team picture.
Yes.
Where Wendell's up, Dallas is down.
And the helmet's kind of like down over his face a little bit on Wendell. It's a famous
and
picture.
it looks cool as hell.
They reported that Dallas didn't like the picture
When he was an assistant with the Leafs.
because it didn't kind of show the whole story of the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he asked them to remove it off the wall.
Yeah.
This is the pic here. Yeah.
It's a great picture.
It is.
That one's hanging in a lot of man caves across
And they were like,
Canada.
so he had the picture removed and he came back now and there's still a picture up. And it's like,
Like, I heard that. I was like, oh my God, I was cringing.
yeah.
And the shots of him on the bench, he looked like a man,
What
a
are you
broken
supposed
man.
to do last night?
That's the horrible thing. Like, they're just obviously, they hate playing hockey. They're going into every different rink. They're getting spanked by everyone. They don't win ever. And what does he go into the locker room after the second period and say?
Well, how many times can you go in and say, have some pride? Have some pride in your own career. Have some pride in, where do you want to be in this league? And, what are we, there's, right? I mean, you're in the NHL.
And it wasn't that far removed where we saw this team beat the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
And
How did that happen?
Zegras on a really good effort in overtime if my
that's
6
right.
concussions
You got it.
aren't kicking in right now.
Shot it into the net.
Over Shulgren.
But last night he did play, right? Last night Zegras did play.
He did. He had one shot, was -2.
I thought his most meaningful contribution was when he actually was pissed off at David Kampf and he gave him a little shot
At the end of the game.
the lower back with the stick, and then David Kampf kind of shouldered him in the head, and there was a little bit of a scrum.
First time you noticed him.
100%.
And for a guy that has Michigan-like moves,
Yeah.
that should not happen.
Well, we mentioned it yesterday, though. It's just like it's impossible to look good on that team.
It
They're
is,
playing
but
with no structure. What you're supposed they have
Nah,
no
I
one
don't
to
buy
play.
that for
no,
1 second.
You don't.
He's too talented, and he can find ways to stand out in his shifts.
Kyper, the Marner goal. I'm gonna pull up things intermittently while we're chatting, but the Marner goal, Zegras is flying the zone. I don't have it up, but he's flying the zone as the weak side wing as the puck comes around, looking for whatever, cheating. And then so when it gets turned over, Marner's got easy access to the net, and he's on his hip. And this is the stuff we had Niedermeyer on yesterday, who's like, part of what he's doing is working with the young guys and basically trying to convince them that it's not just about doing fancy stuff and demonstrating your skill, but helping your team win hockey games. And last night, no one was helping their team win hockey games. John Klingberg last night, -4.
Oh yeah, I was supposed to be.
Would you trade?
Trip. I didn't even.
Would you
notice it.
trade Timmins for Klingberg straight up?
Salaries notwithstanding.
3 assists.
Salaries notwithstanding.
3
yes.
assists for one guy,
Yeah.
-4 for the other.
There might be something to him playing pretty good against AHL level competition.
Well, So the Ducks last night represent AHL and a half, like a
would
team
say.
between
Listen,
the AHL and NHL. And Klingberg, sorry.
I was just gonna say, there should be a Division 2. Right?
Actually,
They
that
should
was
be
the post-game
relegated
show. That's what JD said.
to
is
a
like-
Division 2.
He's
Well,
like,
we
you
did
can't
that-
tell
we
me
did
an
that
AHL
last
team
year.
couldn't
The
do it.
Yeah,
Elite
we've
League?
done it last year.
The Elite League?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, the
We
Elite
did.
League. They're not in it.
No, they're not in the Elite League. But the other guy, one other Leaf, had 3 points last night, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know who it was, Sammy? If I already told you, don't say it.
No, Kerfoot had 2,
Yeah.
but he didn't have 3 points.
No, the other guy was
Engvall.
Pontus Holmberg. So you got Timmins and Holmberg with 3 points each, leading the way for the Leafs. Kerfoot scores twice. Engvall gets on the board. It really is. It's an AHL and half team where those guys have an easier time, compared to. And by the way, Nylander, who used to get a hard time for racking up points against the easy competition, bagels.
Yeah, I think that actually is good for him. For
Me
his
too.
for
He's
his
the
narrative.
only Toronto Maple Leaf, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, there's actually another line worth of guys. The Kampf Mulligan Reese line didn't
So
get any
that,
points.
that in itself's a good sign outside of, it's Anaheim, is that you're really starting to see some balance out of the bottom 6 now for being more of a threat here. And they're nice goals.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see Engvall going top shelf, it's not a bad look right now.
No, good for their confidence for sure. And I think we have Sheldon on that since we're talking about it. Should we?
To me, though, I feel like I'm being the pessimistic one here, though. But that's the dream game for Pierre Engvall.
And Kerfoot.
and
Let's throw
Kerfoot.
Kerfoot in there.
Like
right?
a bad team playing with zero physicality, letting those two guys fly through the neutral zone. No,
it has to be said.
Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it's hard to really measure, like.
it's good. I think it's good, the confidence factor, that you see it go in the net, you're feeling good, maybe that carries over, but you're going to play the New York Rangers next. It's not going to look like that.
It is funny, though. It was reminiscent of like taking a dog to a dog park, like you got like an Aussie Shepherd or something, and they're just like,
oh my God,
this is great. Throw it again. Just having a field day out there last night. But yeah, so Keefe on the bottom six contributing, I think, is the clip.
What are you going to do? Not score, right?
Shoot it in the net. You can only play who you're playing.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's great for their confidence. I think a lot of those guys you mentioned have been doing a really good job for us. Haven't necessarily gotten rewarded for it offensively, but have done a lot of really good things. And through games like this, maybe you can get some traction with some guys, and you're able to get them on the ice more, get a little more rhythm for them. I thought Holmberg's third period was outstanding both ways. Made plays with the puck. Some of the defensive plays and getting back and winning pucks back were great. It was nice to see Joey Anderson score a goal. I thought that line in the third period was really, really good. Engvall scores, Kerfoot gets a couple. They get us going in the game. So, it's good all the way around. And Timmins, has been moving the puck really efficiently for us here again tonight. Did the same thing. I think every single player we have on the sheet is a plus one or better here tonight. So it's a good team win.
On the Holmberg thing, the guy he's been playing in that SHL, the Swedish Elite League or whatever, since 2018. Like, he's been playing men. He's 23 years old. Is there a chance they've found a guy here that like is going to be in the playoffs and a part of this?
Every game,
yeah.
My eyes draw to him more and more. And there's no question in mind last night as I'm watching the game, he will be the reason why you will say goodbye to David Kampf next year.
Wow.
No, my thoughts exactly, Kipper.
Wow.
That they have developed.
Really?
Yes.
They've developed a David Kampf.
Yeah, 100%. And Kampf's been great.
It's been superb.
But you don't need to pay Kampf
$10 million.
No, yeah,
Over 3 years?
2.75 to $3 million for 3 years. When you got this guy coming up. Here's the tricky part here.
I don't like what you're doing, by the way.
What? Making you think?
No, well, that too. But I also love David Kampf. So
okay. All right. Here's the other thing, though, that may factor in this. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I need you to verify this.
Okay.
But I talked to somebody last night, and it didn't dawn on me until he mentioned it. Where's Holmberg's contract situation? Because you did mention that he is a little older.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, he may need a new contract next year.
Yes. Pontus Holmberg's current situation is he's 825. He's an RFA after this season.
There you go. So if we are in the world, guys, of the cap only going up $1 million next year, which we think it's going, I mean, there's always a chance they can negotiate with the Players Association and find a way to artificially bump this thing up $4 million, but don't like the chances from what I'm hearing.
Doesn't seem likely.
Would there be another team out there that could see Holmberg continue to develop and say, yeah, I'll offer sheet him?
I just think it's unlikely.
I'm
but
just saying.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
If offer sheets happened in this league, yes.
Yeah, but they're crazy right now with the pressure of no cap room.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the world of hedging.
Yeah.
And we saw Kevin Adams down the street in Buffalo maybe pull off one of the best heists in hedging with Tage Thompson. Again, 2 goals last night off one-timers. And did you see his opening goal off the face-off?
Yeah, it's a laser beam.
This guy is like off the charts.
Third in the league in scoring now.
He is locked in at 7-1.
I can't be
7.
Right. No, you're right.
Can
I
you
know
look
it's
in?
right. It is
7-1.
Yeah.
Which means that like Kevin Adams for the next 4 or 5 years has arguably a $3 million advantage to other top paying players to go out and add around Tage
Yeah, well, that's what the
Thompson.
Bruins have done for so long with their top guys,
But it's going
right?
to trickle down. It will trickle down to the fact that other general managers have to hedge. And
As in guys are going to guess longer term on guys developing who haven't proved it per se.
And if you can turn around and look at a Pontus and go, I'm willing to give that guy $2.5 million next year. I think it would be on an RFA. The return would be like a third round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, his salary is so minuscule. It'd be a late rounder, I'm sure.
So is that crazy to think that could happen?
To me, it is.
Really?
Well, yeah.
You need more of a sample size from Holmberg?
I think this is the type of guy that is one of those under the radar. They'll be like, yeah, here's 2 years, $2 million.
He's under the radar, not in Toronto.
But
for sure.
but I don't I think we're the first ones having a real meaningful
Yeah.
Pontus Holmberg contract conversation in the history of sports.
Listen,
talk radio.
yeah.
Right? Like I don't think it's a big talked about thing. I think this is something where
Listen, I'm just going by from my optics and what
Yeah.
I see. I see a guy quickly developing into a good depth player.
The one thing I will hear in particular is I know a lot of analytics people are pushing their management to offer sheet guys like this. Guys who it doesn't cost a lot to, in terms of acquisition cost, but it's a good low-end bet, and teams who are up against the cap may not want to match. $2.5 million to Pontus Holmberg buries your cap if you're the Leafs. You're like, I had to pay
100%.
Camp, and I had to pay, listen, I love Holmberg, but good luck with Pontus.
To me, if they gave Holmberg a similar contract,
1-4.
a little, around the Camp contract would be the ideal situation.
Yeah.
Maybe
Now
a
let me
little
ask you
less.
something though.
Yes.
Based on what you've seen so far on the early returns on where Sandin and Liljegren have gone,
Should they have gone long?
Would someone have offer sheeted them at 2.2 or 2.5 for a third rounder? And can we draw up the compensation again? Am I right with $2.5 million on a
Offer sheet
on a third rounder?
compensation NHL. I haven't looked
We're
at
on
this in 100 years.
Well, you should.
Sam looks up stats brought to you by
because
DraftKings. I don't know. We're making that up.
We have teams in jail, guys, in a salary cap.
So-
and Toronto's no different than many of them.
1 to 1.3 is no compensation. 1.3 to 2.1 approximately is 1 third round pick. 2.1 to 4.2 is 1 second round pick, and then it goes up from there.
Okay.
4.2,
So, I
1
mean,
first.
They'd probably offer him 2.099 or something.
A second rounder is significant for sure.
Yeah.
On a guy that you may not be.
But I don't think you'd have to go that high,
consistent.
Kipper. I think you could offer him that number, 2.1, and the Leafs would still go, we can't do 2.1 for Pontus Holmberg.
They would do it.
The Leafs would.
Yes, I would. I would believe that.
Wow.
They would match that because
You're really all in on this
because
guy.
I like to forecast and project.
But can you not get Camp at around 2.1?
No.
Like, how far off
No.
is he?
No, he's 2.7.
All right, well, we're close here.
No,
bring
$500,000
bring-
huge in the world of.
But bring Camp to me and we'll talk AAV here. We'll talk years, All right. What if he did 2.2 and we'll give you 5 years at that? Like something.
You're nuts.
I know.
No one's paying. Listen, we think Yarncroc was kind of goofy at 4 years.
Yeah. There's an interesting comparable for Camp. Can
Yeah.
you get the Yarncroc deal?
Yeah. So, anyways,
yeah.
listen, that's just I don't want to beat it up forever here, but,
No, but I think
my
it's an
point
interesting
is,
conversation that he
I
does need
like
one.
Holmberg. I like where he's headed. He is one of those guys where I say you can win with that guy rounds in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He plays heavy. He's strong. He's smart.
Took the puck to the net a couple times
Takes
last
the puck
night.
to the net. He can remind me more of a Palat or Killorn type of body frames. I'm not saying they're the same players
Yeah.
or they'll have the same success, but you're tired of playing against those guys in game 4, 5, or 6 because they are heavier and they lean on you, and it just gets tiresome.
And people are tired of hearing us talk about Dennis Mulligan and, Robertson and these light guys that Keefe is like Nick Patan, whatever. Here's a guy they drafted, they developed, they brought up, we like. Third line center.
Sixth round draft pick.
There you go.
Yeah. He's winning me over.
Should we stick with the bottom six and do
Love
some
to hear
Alex
that.
Kerfoot love?
Love to hear that.
Sure.
Kyper.
Alex Kerfoot shoots 2 in the net last night. One of them, he just one-timed it past John Gibson. And, he looked like, I don't know, an all-star last night. Pretty good player. Coming out of a slump a little bit. He hasn't been scoring at the rate he expected to this season, but we talked about it before we came on air. The Leafs love this guy. Like, he's
Very popular.
union rep, and he's a part of the leadership group, and everyone, I think he's the fantasy football commish. He's everyone's boy. So good to see him get a couple of goals. Let's listen to Sheldon Keefe talk about Alex Kerfoot.
Again, I think he's another guy, that he's a better player than his production would show, and he's played better than his production would show as well. He still plays important minutes for us. We've been winning a lot of games, and we focus so much on the offensive production. I mean, we want everybody to produce. We want to be, we want depth scoring and all of those kind of things. But there's so many things that happen beyond the scoring that are so important to contribute to team wins.
And that's it, right? He played 18 and a half minutes last night. He plays a lot of minutes. He plays on different lines, kills penalties.
Yeah.
I know, Timmy. Let's have it, Sammy. Give me your
The
Kerfoot.
only question is, does he have the sandpaper to go up again against the Tampa Bay Lightning and find a way to be a guy that can contribute into beating them out? That's the only question I've asked from the moment I've watched Kerfoot.
I think this is a classic guy to me. That would be a salary cap non-existent conversation that we wouldn't even really talk about him ever.
Be happy to have him.
He's a guy that you'd mix in your bottom six, and but the fact that he makes outside of the big four and Morgan Riley, does he have the biggest, he's
$3.5 million.
I guess in TJ Brody's up there, some of the defense guys, but he's got a big ticket. I have defended the guy in the past. I've said that he's kind of a necessary guy to have. He's a Swiss Army knife, whatever you want to say about him. I think it maybe just been watching him for too long now, where it's just
I don't think you guys give him enough credit.
Listen, the guys he plays with every night are saying he's underrated, he's this. So it's like, who am I to tell Mitch Marner that I think he's no good and he shouldn't be on the team anymore? But if he was part of a big trade at the deadline, they needed a contract to get it. I'm not going to be heartbroken to see him go.
No.
And last night, it's
I just
great.
think he can do everything. He can do everything, and except for finishing close. But they put him everywhere in the lineup. They use him all over. He's smart. And here's what kills me is he made a mistake or 2 mistakes in the postseason last year. So, that's fresh, and it's come up on the show a number of times.
I mean,
he took a bad penalty, but is he a guy who takes bad penalties? He's not.
But the thing is,
moments
like that.
He might be a guy that takes bad penalties in the playoffs because he's asked to do something he doesn't want to do, and that's go finish checks.
I don't know. I mean, did you see that trend throughout the playoffs? Or I know it's only 7 games and 7.
Him not really knowing how to finish a check. I think it was against Hedman, and he brought his stick up, and I think that had to do with more him being nervous or apprehensive against a bigger guy. It's not his game. It's not his game.
Yeah. To me, I think it's a one-off play from Alex Kerfoot. And I get.
So here's the thing about that, though.
Yeah.
Fans, this is how you earn the love and earn the hate of fans in any sport. Look at Harry Kane, most popular guy in England.
The Leafs' job aren't to pick fan favorites.
One over the moon.
Their job is not to pick the most likable team.
I'm just saying that, if there's no reason that Leaf fans don't like Kerfoot.
There's no reason. I agree, and it shouldn't be.
There's no reason. No, there's no reason. Thanks, Jen.
No, that does make sense.
No, there's no reason.
We get what you're trying to say there, English major.
Thank you. Yeah.
What was that, Hemingway? No, but there's a reason. There is a reason that he's not a fan favorite, but their job is to win, and they see him play 17 and a half minutes a night and play in special teams and play on all 4 lines.
You need guys come April on that need to find ways to go through people. Kerfoot's an I'm around you player.
No argument.
And they've got a lot of going around you players.
Yep.
Kerfoot's needs to be that Swiss Army knife that can do both. And he doesn't.
He's just not built that way.
Yeah, they haven't been built to get out of the first round either.
No. And hey, that is a fair criticism of the Maple Leafs and their construction. It's not, to me, a fair criticism of, is Alex Kerfoot worth 3.5, valuable to the team, a guy who could be on a team that wins in the playoffs.
Yeah. So
if they had other people that...
It's not his fault he's not that player. And
if there were other players who were that player, would you love Kerfoot? Like Phil Kessel was a dog until he was on a team that had people that could make up for what he didn't have.
But Phil Kessel shot
for
the puck.
sure. It's not that you
obviously different
you
players.
need that perfect team for a guy like Kerfoot to not need to finish his checks.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Sure. It's not like you can't go through Colorado's lineup last year and find, Andrew Cogliano or Darren Helm or whichever smaller guy that plays a grittier bottom six role and can chip in. Like those guys exist.
Yeah. He shouldn't have to apologize for not being the player I'm describing.
But I see your point that it's like you're looking for where are the issues with the Leafs, and that,
in the past,
Yeah.
that's been an issue.
Yeah.
And he has been one of those players, like a few more, that just can't find a way every once in a while on a particular shift to go through you. And that's still the
still wonder if they
NHL
look for
Stanley
that
Cup
somehow.
playoffs.
Yeah.
They have to.
Have to add some of that.
Have to. In the bottom, I know Kyper, you're obsessed, or not obsessed, it's the wrong word. It sounds mean for some reason. I don't know why I said that, but you're excited about the idea of adding a defenseman. To me, they're 8 guys deep.
Yeah, no, listen, it's changed.
They're 8.
It has changed.
They're 8 guys deep. Like the priority is guy who scores for the top 6
Yes.
and a bruiser for the bottom 6. Those are the 2 things they need desperately.
People are having a conversation. I feel like Trump right now. People are saying that Morgan Riley, what do you do?
Oh,
with
him?
Yeah, Morgan Riley has not been a part of this amazing resurgence, and it's making people go, wait, is he dispensable? He's not dispensable. That's not what I'm saying. Well, and that's what people are saying. It's like there are people wondering about Riley when he comes back. How does he fit? Is he on power play 1? Does he play left wing? Didn't we get a tweet about this?
Yeah, somebody tweeted us and asked us if he should play left wing with Marner and Tavares.
They need a left winger. They seem fine on the back end.
Listen, we're talking about games against Detroit and San Jose and LA Kings. Did you see LA Kings last night?
They lost by an unconverted touchdown to the Sabres.
Couple field goals.
Maybe as bad as Anaheim last night. I'm not sure. I didn't watch. But come on, a struggling Calgary team that's too slow right now to be considered a top contending team.
No, you're right though, Kyper.
Like,
the teams that they
pump the brakes on
where are all these people saying we don't need Morgan Riley on the blue line anymore?
the 2 teams they played,
that look good.
they played against the Tampa Bay Lightning,
Yes.
who they had an impossible time getting the puck out of their own zone against. But that was without TJ Brody. That was with Mac Hollowell in the lineup. And then against the Dallas Stars, who they did beat 4-0, but I still thought they had a tough time breaking the puck out. And those are 2 real teams during that stretch.
They miss Morgan against the good teams.
So
Okay, so yeah.
yeah, and we are again. I mean, we've been very crystal clear. We think half the league stinks.
Yeah, that's a fair
we do.
assessment.
We do.
Maybe 3/4. Honestly, boys, the 3 good teams are with the Leafs.
Yes.
It's like the Leafs, they're all in the same division.
We've got
Sick league, Gary.
We've got a super
Gary.
NHL league.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And we got a really loaded Division 2
Yeah.
league.
Sure.
So need more sample size before people start, saying, let's move Morgan Riley to the left wing.
I know.
Well, yeah, we own San Jose and Anaheim.
I will say, though, I'm very happy about the tradition of.
Sorry.
I'm happy
I
about
apologize for that.
I'm happy.
Pouring it on some poor guy.
I'm happy about the tradition of people wanting to move Leafs defensemen to forward. Because this happened when I was a kid. Remember Caberlet as a conversation? Maybe you should try him at forward. And then it moved to Jake Gardner. You know who'd be a good forward? Jake Gardner. And now it's Morgan McCabe.
Anyone who can skate and plays defense.
And now, Morgan Riley, he's pretty good offensively. Maybe he'd be a good forward. Not everyone's Brent Burns, folks.
All right, where do you guys want to go? Samsonov not allowed a goal in 152 minutes.
I do feel obligated
seconds.
to say we literally skipped over Alex Ovechkin getting 800 goals at the top of the
we'll
show.
get
Let's
to him.
stick to the Leafs. We'll go back to that later. All
We'll
right,
do that
let's
later.
stick with the Leafers.
Well, first, he's got lots of personality, you know, and that's
on.
he's fun to be around. He's fun to talk to. But I think what really stands out is just the work that he's put in since he's arrived in our facility and how he's embraced the program. When I say that, that's goalie coach, it's strength coach, it's a performance team, it's nutritionist. Like it's all the way through. He has embraced everything that we've brought to him and everything we've asked him to do, and then he's put the work in, and I think he's feels good about where he's at with his game, and he's did a good job getting through the injury and getting back here now, and it was really good today. The first period was excellent, and then big save in the second period on the breakaway. It's still 2-0, and then I thought the team took care of him from there, and it was really good.
So you just play. We'll take care of the rest for you. We've got everybody here.
I did note, though, I did think it was worthy to mention that he said, like, he's listened to everything we brought to him, including nutritionist, that sort of thing. And at the start of the season, that was something that we said that we had heard in Washington.
He's not in shape.
What was the commitment to the position, the professionalism, off the ice. And so if he is been like, oh man, this is a reality check. I'm 25, and if I don't get it together, I'm not going to be in this league. Maybe you're getting an elite goaltender who has suddenly found a low level of professionalism. By the way, first in the NHL in goals against average, Samsonov. First in the NHL in save percentage, Samsonov.
We're going to have Mike McKenna in about 15 minutes, Daily Faceoff hockey analyst, does a terrific job. He's going to talk about Samsonov and where this goaltending duel heads towards Christmas and the new year. And then Jeff Patterson will also join us in the second hour. We're going to get into a little Bo Horvat talk around the Vancouver Canucks. But Samsonov will not go tomorrow night against the New York Rangers. We expect him to play Saturday against the Washington Capitals and Ovechkin. That game is in Washington. Does that play out the way you see it? That way we've got Matt Murray against the Rangers tomorrow night. And then that's set up for Matt Murray against Tampa Bay next Tuesday.
I don't know. Saturday night, hockey night in Canada, we're going to be Samsonov?
Yeah, because it's against Washington. They're playing him against his former team.
Oh, yeah, okay. It is nice that Ovechkin got 800 out of the way.
Well,
we don't have to do that all Saturday night.
But, if he's got 801 going into...
Oh, yeah, Gordie Howe, and yeah, all that.
Which, listen, boys, I've been cheering for this team long enough to know that...
He's getting 801 and 802.
No, I think they play someone tomorrow night. And then their next game Saturday against Leafs. He's getting one tomorrow, and then he's tying it.
All right. We got about 7 minutes. Listen, I did you watch last night?
I watched enough to know. Yeah, I saw the goals.
So, when we were talking before pregame, we were like, okay, Ovechkin, that's a big deal. It's a story. I probably should have opened up the show, but we got into the Anaheim Stinks
we had to get to the Holmberg
conversation, and we had a huge story.
OV 800 Holmberg's RFA deal. We were like,
relief show.
But, there's also that whole thing about, OV doing this incredible thing. And then, we've had conversations earlier, me and you, about the whole thing about OV and where he stands, during the war, and his picture with Putin still on his Instagram. And that is clearly left a sour taste in when it comes to you talking about Ovechkin. And I'm not saying that I'm not with you on that, because it's out there and it's real and it's affecting lives, and everybody's got this political view on it. But, I am also a guy that can kind of, what's the term? Compartmentalize this. And I've been able to do that. And I know it's a little tougher for you.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. And I think the NHL recognizes the conflict, because, it's not like they've been going crazy promoting the chase for 800 or trying to catch Gordie Howe for Ovi. They're in a position, and I only bring this up because I think it's going to make it interesting in how Ovi is covered over this chase for Gretzky. Right now, the U.S. is sending Patriot defense missiles to the Ukraine to beat back the Russian onslaught led by this dictator that Ovechkin openly supports. And he's on his profile picture is him and this guy, this murderous dictator that the U.S. is actively fighting against. He is in the Capitol in Washington, D.C.
It's wild.
And it's wild. The conflict is massive.
I think there's a ton of compartmentalizing.
We're struggling with
That's a tough word.
compartmentalized.
I know it is,
Okay.
but we
There's,
understand.
there's not no reason I'm saying that one, boys. But I think there's a ton of that going on. Listen, everyone's celebrating and everyone's talking about him scoring that goal last night. And it's not like it's 500 goals or 6. It's 800 goals.
I know, but listen.
And what I'm getting at is like it's an incredible accomplishment.
Incredible.
Which is
Off
hard.
the charts.
But I am more on Bourne's side of it here, where it's like I'm cheering for him not to get it.
And we're not punishing him necessarily for just being Russian. We just talked about Ilya Samsonov and how much everyone loves him here, and we'll play some funny quotes from him in a bit. It's, the open support, not just support, but campaigning for this guy who is leading this murderous charge. So it's different than the other Russians.
Yeah, I don't. You'll get no argument from me, but I just
I know
see
we
it,
should.
I just see
know.
it for its face value, and it's
As a
one
hockey
of the
thing
most
alone, it's
incredible. And I feel bad for the game that it has this over its head.
For sure.
And
It's a
in
bummer
many
for the league.
ways, yeah, and in many ways, it won't happen again. I don't think it'll. I don't
agree.
think it'll ever happen again. It certainly will never happen again.
Real Kyper Bourne, season 18 with Austin Matthews in the chase, or what?
Not with one player, one team, his whole career.
Yeah.
It's just so special on so many levels, and it's almost as if it's still an open-ended thing on how mainstream media will handle this moving forward. And if this war continues, how much of it is on the forefront? How much is kind of covered by mainstream media?
Yeah.
How much is it not? Does the NHL dictate how hard they push based on the temperature of the whole
These are
story
great questions.
on a daily basis? Do they gauge what's out there,
Public sentiment
push
and-
harder Ovechkin's charge, or do they back it off? I wish, for so many reasons.
Wish we could just celebrate it because hockey fans deserve that after following one of the greats who's been heralded as one of the greats forever.
And he is the greatest goal scorer in history.
Yeah.
He is.
Oh, it's, Sammy's got his, how many games it took him?
He's not the greatest goal scorer in history.
Who is?
Wayne Gretzky is the greatest goal scorer in history because he has the most goals.
Yeah, but if he doesn't get hurt, he's going to pass him, and he will become the only 900 goal scorer in NHL history if he stays healthy. And you're right, it may still not happen, but Gretzky be the first one to say he's way better goal scorer than I ever was.
Think about Ovechkin's prime, where he went from 200 goals to 300 goals in 178 games. He went from 300 to 400 in 162 games. 700, 800, 162 games. Still on his prime scoring pace. It is unbelievable.
What is he, 5 behind, Connor McDavid and Jason Robertson and Tage Lemieux, and he's 15 years older than these guys.
15 years older, and he looks like he's been drinking a keg of beer every night for God knows how long.
I'm not sure what's more impressive, scoring on an empty net or scoring on Peter Mrazek. So
was his hattie on Mrazek?
He scored 3 on Mrazek last night.
Is this not equivalent to, I guess, Hank Aaron all-time home runs and stuff like that? And I think of Cal Ripken Jr. passing Lou Gehrig for consecutive games. Like this is like,
so
this is why the
top
league
of
is
our
Homer
history
Simpsoning into
charts.
the bushes right now because they hope that it blows over enough that by the time he's actually in the quest, they can sell it and promote it. And everyone's kind of forgot about the war, right? Like, I think they're crossing their fingers. It happens slower than quicker.
And that's, I mean, it's similar conversation with the World Cup of Hockey, what they're hoping for as well.
Right. By
It's
2025, no one will care about
it's
that.
a very different conversation. Anyways, one quick more thing on Ovi for you guys about the on the ice stuff. How many of the so Sportsnet Stats put out the most goals by Ovechkin versus opposing goalies, and they put out 4 names. How many of those names do you think you can name?
The 4 goalies he scored on the most got to be in his division against
They're really good goalies.
Marc-Andre Fleury.
He number 1,
Is Fleury?
25 goals on Fleury.
Henry Lundqvist.
Twice. That's right. Second, 24.
Look at that division.
This one's out of division. Team he loves playing against.
The Leafs haven't had one goalie
no,
long enough.
You won't get one of them. The other one. Okay, you just want me to
Let's
say
know.
No.
Kipper's going to use Google.
Kipper's
right
Googling
now.
No, I'm not Googling. I'm just looking at teams right now. So I want to say.
While you're doing this, I'm going to give you something someone just sent me. Ovi has 800 goals in 1,305 games. Matthews has 274 goals in 473. At this pace, he would have more goals than Ovi in as many games.
Luongo.
Nope.
Okay, that was a decent guess in Florida.
Oh, right. Yeah. The last 2 are Carey Price with 22,
Oh, yeah.
where he loves playing, always was Montreal,
Yeah.
and Kari Lettinen with 22.
How about Lundqvist, Fleury,
That's what I mean.
Price?
I know. And Kari Lettinen wasn't a bad goalie in his day,
Yeah.
too. So the
Yeah.
old Thrasher days there in that division. So.
And then thanks to Rob and Strathroy for that Austin Matthews ahead of Ovi's pace by per game scoring.
All right.
Did he ever score on McKenna?
We'll ask him.
For sure.
Did Ovi ever get sent down to the ECHL?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then maybe probably not. But we'll ask him after the break. Mike McKenna from Daily Faceoff joining us next on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Leave it to a Greek to send me a tweet saying, and this is from Sam Daskalopoulos. Opa. Pretty sure.
Opa!
Pretty sure McKenna was in net for Ovi's stick on fire.
I mean, of all goals to be in for, if that's true, that would be unbelievable.
Yes, and it wasn't in the ECHL.
No, it was in the big leagues.
Mike, are you hearing all of this?
Yeah, I am.
Is it
if
true?
Anybody thought Ovi ever played in the ECHL? They got another thing coming. Yeah, it's totally true. When people find out that I was the goaltender in net for Ovechkin's hot stick celebration where he scored his 50th goal in the 2008-9 season, the common response is it's actually always the same. They always look at me with wide eyes and they go, "That was you?" Because nobody can believe I was actually in net for it and played in the league. And then, I'm like, this is my claim to fame. I had Don Cherry defending my dignity on Hockey Night in Canada. And, that was me. I was in net for the hot stick. That's my claim to fame.
So I only have visions of, I think it was in 1987, if I'm not mistaken, that Ron Hextall just chased Chris Chelios as a member of the Montreal Canadiens, like right to the far hash marks. And baseball swung his goal stick against his shin pads.
Yeah.
Any thought of going after Ovi after that episode of Hot Stick?
Oh, in the moment?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I've been in the league for maybe, 2 weeks at that point. So here I am thinking, I'm an absolute peasant in this league. I can't take a suspension right now on probably the best player in the game. Like, I just have to eat this. And what was so tough about it was watching my teammates just kind of stare at him. And we get in afterwards, and Rick Tockett's our coach, and he's fuming, right? Because nothing happened. And
Oh, really?
Well, look at this. I'm playing it.
Really?
I'm playing it for Kyper right now. Kyper, watch this.
Talk's just ripping everybody. Like, Talk definitely thought somebody should have gone after Ovi.
I think at least somebody should have said something was the thought process for sure. And nothing did. And we all just kind of stared at it. But you know what? No one expected that. It was such a strange occurrence, man. Like, nobody had done a celebration like that ever. And we're all just staring at him kind of at first, like, what's he doing?
Who's number
and
two?
We were
Number two is just stand
anyway.
and watch. Number two on your team at the time in Tampa there.
Right-handed shot?
As Lucas Krajicek. I remember
He's
that
just
clear as
standing
day.
right
'Cause it was over
beside
my
him, just
shoulder.
watching it happen.
You know,
Yep.
I was working with Sportsnet. I was one of those guys that said that it was a little over the top. I do recall, I think a year or two later, doing I don't know if it was a charity event or a league award show or something where Ovi knew that I didn't like it and came over to me. And, actually we had a very good conversation, believe it or not. And he was just saying, why don't you like the players celebrating? And why don't you like them expressing themselves? And that's what we need to do more. And, I kind of stated my case that, that there's another team involved. And, I think that, I think in many ways that we were both probably right, because we do know that it's gone to another level in terms of the creativity, the celebrations, the passion and all of that. And, I've swung over, not completely over the other side, but in the same sequence, I can think that Ovi's also come over my side a little bit too, because I watched last night, guys, Ovi celebrate his 800th, and I saw a guy that was not interested in any of that BS, but a guy that's been humbled by it. I like the fact that he tapped his heart on his jersey to the Chicago fans and everybody outside watching. And ultimately, I think this guy did get it to the point where he led a team to a Stanley Cup, and his legacy will go down in history amongst some of the best that's ever played the game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he'll be the greatest goal scorer ever, if he isn't already. And you know what's funny, Kyper? Like you mentioned having a conversation with him. I actually spoke to Ovi about it, I don't know, a week or two later when we played against them. And it was just one of those exchanges down underneath the arena where he basically said sorry. I don't know if he said sorry, but he more or less said, I didn't mean anything by it. I didn't mean to show you guys up. And I said, That's fine. You know what? We're good. No problem here. I think he understood that it was kind of an embarrassing moment for our team that was really bad at that point. And it was just kicking us when we were down. And we're good. And you know what? Now I look back on it pretty fondly because it's one of those moments in NHL history that's pretty iconic. And hey, man, even
That's
if I was
kinda
on
cool,
the
man.
wrong end of it,
Yeah.
even if I was on the wrong end of it, like I was part of something historic, and I'll forever be tied to him. So I've owned it. It's cool. And I love watching Ovi play, man. One of my favorite players.
It's also not a groaner. Like he rips that shot. Like it is 1,000 miles an hour. One of the questions I did want to ask you is everyone talks about what is it about his release that's so deceptive, yada, yada. Is it not that he just shoots it 1 billion miles an hour and places it really well?
And just before you go, Mike, I want to say that I went down just to kind of add to your point.
Yeah.
I went down and did an alumni event about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And I walked into the practice facility and they were on the ice and I couldn't take my eyes off of Ovi the whole practice.
Just
shooting it. And,
Yep.
you know, the one thing that really stood out during that practice, Mike, was the sound, almost as if I'm listening to 8 other guys on the Blue Jays do batting practice. And then I hear
Vladdy steps in.
I hear Vladdy, and just the sound off his bat is much different than anyone else's. And I got the exact same feel watching Ovi shoot the puck during this practice. And I'm just wondering, from a goaltender's perspective, do you get the same different feel when a guy like that comes at you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's because he's swinging for the fences absolutely every time. It's
Right.
like growing up in St. Louis, I'd see Albert Pujols and I'd see Brett Hull, and those were similar types of players for what they did. And like even I just put a piece up on Daily Faceoff today about the top 5 one-timers in the league, and I pulled NHL goalies, and all but one guy said Ovi. Now the thing about Ovi when it comes off his blade to me, it's not like he's so accurate with it. It's just overwhelmingly hard, and it's hard to read because you know how this works with the big shooters. He can shoot it from anywhere. It doesn't have to be in his wheelhouse. It can be 3 feet behind him. It could be off his front foot, back foot. So a lot of times the puck comes off and it's almost like waffling on edge. So it can dip and dive and go all over the place. So like his one-timer's tough to stop because it's hard to read. And then when he's shooting on the rush like he did to beat me for that hot stick goal, he's got a really big-time toe curve on a stick. And it tends to go like toe, heel, toe really quickly. And when he uses that D as a little bit of a screen, it's just tough to pick up, and it comes off the blade so quickly, almost kind of like a boomerang. So, you know, I had trouble with him early in my career, but I actually faced him, I think, 5 or 6 times total. And later in my career, I did better because I knew I had to get my feet set. If I got my feet set, I could at least get a good read on the shot. I wasn't perfect against him, but I was at least better once I had that little bit of detail.
Yeah, it's a really good point about that toe curve because sometimes it does seem to just come off and whip and change direction on the way. It doesn't seem to matter where it is in his stance, he hits it. So one goaltender, actually 2 goaltenders, are stopping a lot of pucks in Toronto right now. Ilya Samsonov has taken over the NHL lead in save percentage and goals against average. You know, one of the things Sheldon Keefe mentioned today was sort of his off ice. He's taking care of himself and really listening to the things they're trying to work with him on. What are you seeing out of Samsonov so far this season?
Well, it's a really good point because I think that there was a little more than an inclination, maybe a belief that Samsonov just didn't really take things serious enough in Washington in a couple of different ways. And so obviously that's one thing. You get kicked in the teeth when you're a first-round pick and the team that picks you doesn't want you anymore. They just let you go. So I think that woke him up a bit, and I think that there needs to be a lot of credit to goalie coach Curtis Sanford in Toronto here because he's got 2 goalies in Murray and Samsonov they're pretty different in how they play, in my eyes. Samsonov still, to me, has an element of free form to his game. He's not that crisp, but I think he's cleaned up 2 things this year. First, his depth is really consistent. There were times with Washington he'd be deep in his crease, then he'd be way out. It's like he didn't really have a game plan. Now I think he's pretty set in that, and I also find that he's sliding less than he ever was before. When he was in Washington, he'd slide from side to side and recover, and his game was just really busy. Now, there's still a little bit of that to him. He's never going to get rid of it completely. But I do find that he's staying on his edges a little bit more, and that in turn is just making that first save easier and easier for him to control it because his eyes aren't moving, his upper body's not moving, and he's square to the shot initially.
Is this sustainable? I mean, these type of numbers, does it, as expectations rise, I mean, is there going to be a letdown here?
The brutal honesty is no. A 939 is not sustainable. I mean, we're only a third of the way into the season, so he's going to come back down to earth with that. I mean, if Samsonov finishes with a 925, I would consider that a massive year for him. But there's going to be regression if that's what the number turns out to be. And, it's some of the things that I said before. Like, I still think he's loose in his game. He's not very crisp. He can still end up on his back and his stomach occasionally. And that's a progression. He's going to have to keep working on that with Curtis Sanford to really find that structure. So is it sustainable from the numbers he's posting now? No. And I also think that frankly, the Leafs have played really well lately. So it's given him a ton of confidence. What's going to happen when he finally hits a tough patch? Because to me, Samsonov really hasn't had one this year. At some point he will. But with the way he's playing, like I say, with his depth and the fact that he's not sliding as much, I do think he's capable of, 920, 925 type of goaltending, and that's everything that the Maple Leafs need.
Do you think he can be better than McKenna, or sorry, not McKenna, McKenna than Murray?
Yes, he can definitely be better than McKenna. He is much
fair.
better than McKenna.
Now that we've got that out of the way, if Murray and Samsonov are both playing well come playoffs this year, can Samsonov make a case that he'd be the better guy to start?
I'd start whoever's playing best going into the playoffs. And I think that that's really healthy in this relationship. The problem is that you got to hope that both are healthy here, guys. That's the elephant in the room. We don't need to belabor it because we know it's all what we're hoping doesn't happen. You want them both healthy. Right. But when you look at Murray, and I've watched him closely, like I didn't like his game against Calgary, but you throw that one out the window. Look what he did against Dallas. I mean, just one of the greatest goalie performances I've seen in the last probably 2 years. I think he's playing at a level of urgency with Murray that I haven't seen in a couple of years. You talk about crisp, like his footwork's real crisp. Okay. He's very rarely swimming unless he absolutely has to. He's not knocking the net off anymore. So he's adjusted that. And so have the arenas around the league. But I still question his hands. That Calgary game, it looked like Kadri and a couple others were able to expose him up high. That's something he'll have to keep working on. But I think realistically, this is an open battle between Murray and Samsonov. And if you have two bullets in the chamber when you get to playoffs, who's to say they both don't end up playing a little bit? Murray's won a Stanley Cup like that previously when he had Marc-Andre Fleury as his goalie partner in Pittsburgh. I could see it playing out like that again.
Until one of them catches on fire, right? I mean, but historically,
that's right.
But Mike, historically, we don't see it happen when it comes to winning Stanley Cups. We see one dominant guy, and very seldom do we not know who that guy is generally before the playoffs start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true, but it's also a little bit of a different landscape. If you look at the number of tandems around the league, I put out a piece at Daily Faceoff on the top tandems, and it was so hard for me to rank because most of the teams in the league now, save for maybe 5 or 6, they're rolling with a tandem that's playing 2 games to one guy, 1 game to another. Even closer to split half and half. Now, come playoff time, we've seen how that works before. You are right, Kyper. Like, it typically does go to the one goalie that's caught fire. But a lot of that comes down to the team. If the Leafs are playing well in front of one goaltender, unless they really stink up the joint in playoffs, they're probably going to ride them out. You have to think Murray's got a bit of an edge there, though, with 2 Stanley Cups in his pocket. I know he's been rebuilding. I know the last couple of years haven't been great, but he still knows what that moment is like. And there's value to that.
That's why you lean on him as the guy.
I think unless Samsonov is playing heads and shoulder above Murray, I think you're right, Kyper. It's Murray's net probably for playoffs to lose.
Do you think stats today do a good job? I know there's some goals saved above expected and some new ways to look at goaltending. Do you think we do a good enough job accounting for environment? As in, are the Leafs providing both these guys with the insulation to look good? Is John Gibson being unfairly put upon playing in Anaheim? Are we capturing situation enough on these goaltenders?
I think there's enough information out there if you have kind of a discerning eye. As far as John Gibson, I haven't liked his game for 4 years. I think you're seeing the goalies that haven't updated to modern style and post integrations and everything else like that. They're at the bottom of the league, and we're talking about Quick, and we're talking about Gibson, and we're talking about Peterson, and Bobrovsky, even some pretty big name goalies that I think they've been passed by. But in terms of the Leafs, this club is providing them insulation, no question about it. And I think you have to look at how the team is, like expected goals for the team, shot attempts, all that stuff it all matters. It all factors in. I still think there's value in traditional numbers. I do like goals saved above expected. The problem is that it's over the course of the season. So you really need to look in a little microcosm. How's somebody playing? You need to look at the last 5 or 6 games to really get a feel for that. And, of course, when you look at Toronto right now, hey, man, that's pretty good. Like I said, I didn't like the Calgary game for Murray, but aside from that, he's been rock solid, the same as Samsonov.
Okay, based on roughly 30 games, we are starting the playoffs tomorrow, and I am giving you one tandem to pick, anyone you want to start to try to win a Stanley Cup. Who do you pick? Samsonov and Murray, Allmark and Swayman.
Hey, he just wrote on this. He knows them all.
Okay, where are you going, buddy? I'm giving you 2. I'm giving you a chance to pick anyone you want to try to go win a Stanley Cup starting tomorrow. Who are you taking?
Well, we got to assume that the Islanders are in the playoffs, even though it's getting tight out there in the Metro. I would go Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov.
Wow.
That combination, I mean, Sorokin has been outstanding, and I think Varlamov has been very good. Either of them can win. If you're looking at a tandem thinking you may have to play both. But I think even in Tampa, Brian Elliott, guys, he's 6-1 this year. And I know it's not playoffs, and I know he's also faced a little bit different workload. But you just look at how Tampa's playing, and you think, man, Elliott and Vasilevsky, they might be able to get it done as well. So I haven't really liked Swayman's year so far to date. I think he's trending upward. Olmark's been fantastic. But if I got to roll into playoffs with a tandem, I want the one guy who I think is probably the Vezina winner. If it's Sorokin, it might be Hellebuck right now. They're going to be battling it out for a while. But it's really because of the strength of Varlamov. I'd feel completely comfortable going with the Islanders tandem into playoffs.
Excellent. Excellent stuff as always, man. Appreciate you coming on the show. Appreciate you being the goalie in net off of Ovi's hot stick.
What a thrilling development that was. Thanks
Hey,
for the
you
story,
know what?
man.
That's
I'm
just
thrilled
my
it was
crack
me
team.
too. That's what I claim to fame.
I want you to know that's my crack team led by Sammy McKee that did mounds of research to find that out about 9 minutes ago.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it. Better late than never.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Mike
You got it.
McKenna from Daily Faceoff Hockey Analyst. Sammy, I expect you to know that stuff.
He knew. He had done great research to figure out. He was watching the video. Who's the goalie net for Ovi's 50th? We got to get him on the show.
There's been a few times I've been as disgusted at a hockey event than when he did that celebration.
Oh, you guys are ridiculous.
No.
I
That
didn't
was
like it at the
ridiculous.
time
That was
either.
ridiculous. I wouldn't like it today.
It was too gimmicky for me.
What's wrong with going, yeah, double fist pump? What's wrong with that? Why you got to put your stick on the ice? Can I show a touch of class? Awful selling.
He's the most Canadian guy I've ever heard. Good old boys.
The one that I've liked is in overtime when guys throw their stick into the crowd.
Love that.
That's a great
Love
selling.
that one.
Yeah,
I
until
like that.
someone loses an eye.
You know what I actually thought
And
of
there's
the
a
other
major
day?
lawsuit.
You know, Matthews for years has done the look of the crowd and give the let's go.
Bunting does
keep
that
it
all
on.
the time.
I know. I was going to say Bunting did it the other day, and I was like,
Mitch.
yeah, but Mitch started doing it, I think, last year. But Mitch is one of the, he scored 35 times last year. He's a,
Oh, you don't like Bunting doing it.
it's a bit much. Okay, you got 8. Let's.
The thing,
What was that, 7-1?
Yeah, let's
The
just-
7th goal?
That's right. Let's.
the
maybe
one,
pull
the one
back.
that's getting me with celebrations, I mean, we'll talk a little McDavid in the news and notes or whatever, but this guy, I was saying to Bourne before the show, scores a goal every night. That would be the best goal of 85% of the guys in the league's career every night. And he scored one last night where he just carved up the Preds.
Yeah.
End to end, goes through, and they just fist bumps this guys off the ice, no look
Just
in his
another
face.
one.
It's like, it's just an easy game.
There's like tiers of scoring, and it's like McDavid tier, Draisaitl tier, and then the rest of the league starts.
Like Matthews really celebrates his goals these days. Like
You know-
he
you
does
know
a
what
big
I-
Well, I
I do
think
wanna
the-
add-
the drop down to one knee. And
well,
then,
but that's Ovi, and I've
Yeah.
actually always hated Ovi's celebration just because I think it's a bad celly. He does the one knee ice punch thing.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
I don't like that celly
I
just because I
don't-
don't like it. It doesn't look. I'm not like offended by it. I just think it's a stupid. I don't like it.
I think that looks like a lot.
Why are you so
of
pissy?
guys,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like it's
I've
not.
seen Pat Kane
bad.
kind of do a little
Kane
bit of
does the
something.
mouth guard out this too. I think actually that's where Matthews
But
got it from.
Kane-
Actually,
Kane, Kane goes down to one knee every once in a while,
yes, he
does
does.
he not?
He does for sure.
I'm trying to think who's the best guy in the league is at doing it.
Just a best selly guy. I
I'm
don't
trying
know.
to think.
We're open to suggestions if you got it in our.
I remember Tim Kerr scoring 60 goals for the Philadelphia Flyers. I don't think he raised his arms 5 times.
Really?
Well, there's a big part of it that's like you act like you've been there before.
You know what? I actually got called into my athletic director's office in university because I scored a big goal and I turned around and did the referee point at the net.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the ref point. I did the
I
Captain
can't even
Morgan
finish
pose
this
once.
show right now. I'm so
The
disgusted at
ref
that by
point's
you.
great.
What's your favorite celebration of all time?
Timo Solane shooting the gloves.
Yeah, that one is
I
wild.
don't know.
Theo,
Overtime.
you know what? Actually, it is Theo Fleury's
Theo
OT.
Fleury,
Yeah, that's
where he Zamboni'd the center ice?
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Well, I don't. Who was it? Oh, when Yakupov. Remember Yakupov, who was just like the craziest celebrator, and they were playing like a mid-December game, and he tied it with like a second left, and he skated the length of the ice and like
Yes,
went
I
on his
do, and
knees
they put it on
and like
T-shirts.
yeah, he was just like
Actually,
out of his mind. But
yeah.
the hot stick would not be on my list of favorite songs.
I'm going back, but Tiger Williams rode his stick down center ice at Maple Leaf Gardens.
I love Tiger, but only Tiger can do that.
First game back, I think, as a Vancouver Canuck.
I dare you to tell him not to.
Yeah, right? Well, that's it. It's like, yeah, you want to
That
go ahead and
guy
get something to say about it?
Would still kick 90% of any NHL player's ass
Yeah, I want
today.
I want nothing to do with telling Tiger Williams he can't do something. He go ahead and do whatever he wants.
I also, I mean, not to get too, there's a couple more that I really, really love. I'm not a big fan of Kuznetsov at all.
Oh,
but I
you
love
the
when
bird?
when he does the.
Big fan, yeah.
That's a good one.
Don't
And
really get the bird thing.
well,
This
it's
is a
Russian Eagle. Yeah, it's not.
Thing.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Lucic, when he would score, and then he would take both hands on his stick and put it above his head.
The most ogre celebration of all time.
Oh my God.
And
I'm too old for like a 10-minute Sally
and
conversation.
another really good one.
Sorry to
Sorry,
drag you
I
into the
mean,
mud here.
there's 2 more I got. The one of the most iconic, and a guy that actually just had 2 assists as a 50-year-old in the Czech league.
Oh, Yager salute.
salute is glove off, bang.
My buddy Brian Propp had a guffaw, which I think he got somehow from a Howie Mandel show. A guffaw. I don't even
Like
know
a
what the
laugh?
guffaw is.
What's a guffaw?
A guffaw. He took his hand out of his glove and he kind of scooted it up towards the air.
Okay.
It was really strange, but I think I found out it had something to do with Howie Mandel.
That's strange. I've been hanging on to one because I'm embarrassed about this. And in fact, it's the only time I think my dad actually called and was like, what are you doing? But around the time Terrell Owens pulled the Sharpie out and signed the I didn't do that.
Bourne. Oh,
But
okay.
Anchorage, Alaska and Fairbanks are big rivals. Like those are huge games every year. They give out a trophy. I scored an OT winner in that game and pretended to pull out the Sharpie and sign the stick.
Oh.
And I got punched in the head for that the next game.
Yeah.
But
I am really surprised you've made it this far.
I stopped celebrating like an idiot as I grew up.
And Jamie Benn, I don't know when it was, can't remember in the last however long, snapped his stick over his knee. Like it was broken
Little
a little bit.
Bo-
He like scored the
Bo
he scored the goal.
Jackson.
How about when Bobby Ryan scored using someone else's stick
Yes.
and then celebrated?
Yeah.
That was unbelievable
He,
too.
like, showed it. I think it's the art of a celebration. It's incredibly, to me, it's important to the goal. Like if it's an all-time goal or like it's something the moment, it's what you remember for. You think of Patrick Kane
Kipper's
scoring
dying
I
right
know.
now.
You score the overtime winner that nobody knew went in,
Yeah.
and he's jumping up and
Goes
down,
the
going down.
length of
You
the
remember
ice.
that just as much as you remember
I
the
love
goal.
that.
Like it's an important thing.
I'm going to break.
I know.
Doing
Yeah.
the windmill. We'll be back. Right after these words.
Take us away.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
JB, I got to think that the NHL Christmas freeze, which is coming, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Monday
Oh, yeah.
at midnight, couldn't come at a better time for the Vancouver Canucks, just to calm things down out west, because this whole Bo Horvat story is taking on a life of its own, I think. And that's it's a good reason to kind of get into it with our next guest. Mr. Patterson, how are you? Oh, is he? Okay. All good, Mr. Patterson?
I am, yeah.
Is that you catching your breath with all the turmoil going on with the Vancouver Canucks?
It was actually me turning off my dryer so that I could do this unfettered because I didn't want the home appliances to be rattling in the background.
So, is there really news in the last 24, 48, 72 hours here, or is it just kind of some things surfacing that we already knew pre-existing even towards the summer when they chose to sign JT over Bo?
Yeah, I'm not sure that there's anything that is earth-shatteringly new other than this report that the Horvat camp has rejected the team's latest offer. And I suppose that part is new because during the Hall of Fame weekend, there was a fair bit of noise around the fact that, well, all these Canucks personnel, management, and ownership were in Toronto, and Pat Morris is based in Toronto, and the two sides didn't get together, and that seemed to have some people concerned that, you know, had reached this critical mass where they weren't even talking to each other. So if you're rejecting deals, at least there's some communication going on. But it's just it's the bizarre nature of the way this thing has sort of taken on life now in the last really 10 days. And 10 days ago, it was Brock Besser front in the spotlight. Now, more recently this week, it's Horvat again. But like to have a player release a statement, a prepared statement through the team while he's on the ice at practice yesterday. Like I've covered this team for 23 years. I've never seen that one before, so that was new. And then, of course, he comes off the ice after practice and gets asked questions about the contract situation. And so, he was trying to get ahead of it. I understand what he was trying to do with the statement, but in a market like this one, they had Monday off, so this was the first time that anybody had access to Bo. And, of course, those questions were going to be asked. And, of course, he handled it like the pro that he is. I mean, he has been nothing but gracious with his time during his playing days here as the captain. He's comfortable in front of the microphone. So I didn't understand the need for the prepared statement because he was going to get asked all those questions, and he can certainly handle himself. And, he didn't dump any more gas on the fire. He just kind of explained his side of things, and away you go. So, that part at the very least was curious. And, to his credit, like it hasn't been a distraction. Now, he hasn't been asked about it an awful lot. He was asked about it before training camp and sort of said all the right things then. And then he goes out and he scores 20 goals, and he's one of the league leaders in that department. So it hasn't been a distraction. But, now that it's ramped up a little bit, I am curious to see if at any point this does, because now it's pretty real. Like now I think it's pretty clear that if the Canucks have made their best and final or something close to it and it's been rejected, then it's kind of natural to suggest that he isn't going to finish the season here as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. And so in that sense, maybe it does change the dynamic a little bit. Can he shelve that and just continue to do what he's done on the ice through the first 28 games?
We're joined by Jeff Patterson, who's covered the Vancouver Canucks for more than 2 decades. And this one's a beauty as we watch what happens to Bo Horvat with the Vancouver Canucks. Jeff, is there a chance that this release, this something out of nothing story is kind of brought together by Bo, his agent, the Vancouver Canucks, just to try to drum up the best case scenario here to move off of this? Can there be a deal done after Christmas or at the deadline? Like, Where's this heading here? Are they all in agreement that this is the best way to go and this is the best way to kind of draw up interest?
Well, it's hard to fully know what Patrick Elvine, the general manager, is thinking. We rarely hear from him. He plays things remarkably close to the vest. Jim Rutherford certainly is more outspoken among the two upper management guys. Bo Horvat, again, said all the right things. Like, drafted by the Canucks, sort of groomed under the Sedins, became the captain, has started and raised a family here. Like, I do think that Bo Horvat, in some world, would like to see it through and see how far he can push it with the Vancouver Canucks, because let's be honest, they haven't had a whole lot of success during his time here. Got to the playoffs as a rookie and then got to the playoffs again in the bubble a couple of years ago. But it's been since 2015 since the Vancouver Canucks have actually hosted a playoff game here at Rogers Arena in Vancouver. So a long time coming, and they're below the playoff bar as we sit here now. Big one in Calgary tonight. But, the chances of them making the playoffs this year feel slim. I wouldn't rule it out because there's enough runway left still. But, so I think Bo Horvat envisions a world in which he does lead this team to playoff success and those types of things. But, through no fault of his own and through fiscal mismanagement of now two management groups, eventually the dam's going to burst. And it looks like we're reaching that point, and he's kind of going to be the guy that ends up being squeezed in all of this. So they made their bed. They committed to JT Miller and, at the end of the offseason, just before training camp. It has not been a great start to the season for JT. He picks up points. If you just look at the box scores, you'd say, hey, a point-a-game guy, like, that's all right, coming off a 99-point season. But it's, just nightly errors. You probably saw the highlight the other night against Minnesota with the cross-ice pass that got picked off for a shorthanded goal, and we see way too much of that from JT Miller. And I do wonder if there is some buyer's remorse in the offices at Rogers Arena. Did they hitch their wagon to the wrong guy? But there's not enough money to go around in a flat cap world, or a cap that's going up by $1 million. And so, the only way I could see them carving out space to find a way to meet Horvat's demand, they'd have to get out from under Besser or Garland or Tyler Myers. And Besser and Garland are both stuck on 4 goals and have had massively disappointing starts to the season. And Tyler Myers is essentially a depth defenseman making $6 million this year and next. So, none of those contracts is going to be easy to move. They don't have much in the system and the pipeline. They already added a second-round sweetener to move off Jason Dickinson's contract earlier this year. And so, this new management group, they inherited a mess. They did. But they've been on the job a year now, and instead of carving out any cap flexibility, they committed to Miller. They elected to go 3 years with Brock Besser. They went out and they signed Ilya Mikheyev in the offseason and didn't do anything to address the back end. And so they spent all this money up front, and yet everybody in this market knew that the defense core wasn't good enough, was the glaring weakness. And sure enough, if you watch the Canucks at all this season, and I think they've given up 5 or more goals in 12 of their 28 games. So many other games look and feel the same. They can't defend. They give up way too much. And as a result, they lose more than they win. So there's a myriad of problems here. And it's going to be really interesting to see what direction this new management group decides to go. But right now, it's kind of been paralysis by analysis, and they really haven't done anything that kind of tipped their hand into, what that next big move or that first big move is going to be if they decide that they want to change the direction of this hockey club. And ultimately, is it going to be moving Bo Horvat, or is there going to be a trade before that tries to create a little wriggle room so maybe they can double back and see if they can't get a deal done to keep the captain here long term?
So you mentioned the fiscal mismanagement of 2 groups, and now we're on to the second one. I can't help but wonder, who's under fire in Vancouver right now most of all? Is it individual players? Is it the new management group? Is it, is it ownership? Who is feeling the heat of just from the outside, it looks like they're kind of stuck in this mushy middle where they're pretty good and they got some good players, but they can't really do anything to get better. And it's tough to see a roadmap out of this. The new management doesn't seem to have helped them with that. Sorry for trying to answer my own question. I will now hand that over to you.
Yeah, and I will need 15 minutes to answer this one. I think there's a huge portion of the fan base that is angry at ownership for just refusing over a decade now to strip it down and try to build it up properly. And ultimately, even though people try to get, sell the team, moving on as a hashtag and trending on Twitter. Like, you don't get to make that call. The owner's the owner, and there are a lot of people that have felt his fingerprints have been all over management, certainly behind a lot of the moves of the Jim Benning era. I think the new management group, it's been just over a year since Jim Rutherford took over. Patrick Alvine was brought on board in January, so he's coming up on his first anniversary. You get a little bit of a honeymoon period there. But I think there is some frustration with the inactivity because talk is cheap. And ultimately, Jim Rutherford was brought in to do a job. He was brought in as a senior manager with this reputation and the Stanley Cups to prove it. And one of the things everybody thought with Jim Rutherford was, he's proactive and all the trades that he made when he took over in Pittsburgh. And yet you look at the trade activity, and I get it's tough in this climate of the National Hockey League, but they just nibbled around the fringes, traded out Travis Hamonic, brought in Travis Dermott last year, and then Ethan Bear and Riley Stillman. Like, that's the extent of their trade activity, and they're no better for those minor moves, and that's why some major surgery is going to be required. And so I think a lot of the frustration is with ownership that, it's just been this constant chase of getting in as the second wild card and take your chances. That, under Jim Benning, it sort of was get into the playoffs and hope that something can happen. And they saw that in the bubble, that was kind of the case. And so I think they thought that gave them hope. But coming out of the bubble, they were one of the sexy teams. Like, all those young players stepped up, performed well. Horvat was terrific. I think he had 10 goals in that playoff run. But Demko, was the first playoff test for Pettersson and Hughes, and they were both point-a-game guys. And so there was really reason to believe. And I go back to that free agency period coming out of the bubble. We were in COVID. The Canucks as an organization were sort of cutting corners financially wherever they could, and that's when they let Markstrom and Tanev and Toffoli and Troy Stetcher all just walk away as unrestricted free agents. And, they had Toffoli. If they had found a way to re-sign Toffoli, they probably don't have to chase Connor Garland and make that trade and bring on OEL and his contract. And, and so it's just chasing your tail, and around they've gone. And as a result, they're right back in this position of, best case scenario is probably sneaking in as the wild card number 2, or maybe you reach lofty heights of being the number 1 wild card. Whatever the case,
yeah,
you're
Jeff,
taking on the top seed in the conference,
Jeff,
and
sneaking into the playoffs means that you will have kept Bo Horvat, and then you watch him walk out the door for nothing. They can't do that.
No, you're right. I agree with you 100%. And so that's where I think, like, in my world now, if they have made their best in final, and only they know, but if they've even been close and it's been rebuked by the Horvat camp, I think you really have to start looking at trading him sooner rather than later, because the last thing they can afford is for Horvat, who's been remarkably durable during his career. But imagine if he gets hurt here closer to the trade deadline. Like, then you're left holding the bag in that regard. And so you can't bank on that. You can't plan around injuries, but it is a realistic possibility. And so I do wonder if, they think they've made their best offer to him. The Horvat camps, they're not even close.
They have made their best offer to him.
I would start looking at, making the best possible trade in the here and now, and really starting to lay out some sort of longer-term vision than rolling the dice, hoping they come up your way, and you sneak into the playoffs for, 2 home playoff dates. And, I just think the Aquilini family, they've got more money than just about anybody. Really, 2 home dates, is that lucrative to them? Or, the possibility of a 3rd home playoff game? I'm of the opinion, set a course for this franchise. If it means stepping back, it's been a dark decade here, but put together a plan that will allow you to have a run of 4 or 5 years where the hope would be that you were a playoff team every year, and that in one of those years you get it right, you get on a big long run, and you actually put together a team that can, contend. So the owner hasn't shown that kind of vision yet. It just really is sort of a fly by the seat of his pants, year by year, take it one step at a time. But I'm with you that that cannot be an option for this group. And, Calgary was in a different boat last year. They watched Calgary with Johnny Hockey, but they had legitimate Stanley Cup aspirations that fell short, but the aspirations were there. This team does not have those. And so holding on to Horvat would make 0 sense, in my opinion.
I think Vancouver Canucks are going to think that they can get a boatload for Bo Horvat, and they are going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, it's tough to know. I mean, look, we spent a lot of time here in this market wondering what's his value on the trade market, and then beyond that, what would his value be on the open market? Bo he's a really unique player. I think there are two guys in the league right now that have 18 goals but less than 10 assists. I think Shifley's the other one. Bo is he's developed into a goal-scoring ace and an absolute face-off stud. He's a captain, so he's got leadership, but there are warts to his game.
Vancouver doesn't want to pay him as a top goal-scoring kind of guy. Here's the problem in a nutshell. Jeff.
He's not going to run at 21% with a shooting clip. Like there is going to be a drop in his goal scoring. He's not going to score one of every 5 shots. It's just the reality of the situation. And I think one thing that people around the league don't recognize, and I'm not here to throw darts at Bo Horvat. He's an incredible guy. I've always enjoyed my dealings with him, but he's got 9 assists. I think 5 of them at even strength, 28 games into the season. He's not a setup guy. He doesn't have playmaking and a vision on the ice. And so
this is Vancouver's. This is why, and this is the biggest dilemma here I've seen actually is kind of an interesting case study that Vancouver wants to pay him like a 50-point guy, like the guy that you just mentioned, can't set up. So that ballpark could be anywhere between $5 and $6 million. But what's going to happen now between now and the trade deadline, they're going to want to trade him as if he's an 80-point guy and a 40-goal scorer. So tell me which one it is, because you can't suck and blow at the same time.
Yeah, and again, I have nothing but the highest regard for Bo Horvat, but realistically, I mean, his career high is 61 points. That was last year. And again, sort of the knock on him is he doesn't make the guys around him a whole lot better in terms of setup and playmaking, those types of things. They throw him out there in the matchup role, and he holds his own, but he's certainly not a defensive ace. He's had one Selke vote in his career, and that came from a member of the Vancouver chapter of the Professional Hockey Writers Association, so some home cooking there. He's a very good player, but I'm not sure that I can go a whole lot further there if I'm the one that's trying to sign the contract. I can understand from the Canucks perspective, like there's been talk that they looked at Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as comparable, and somehow the Oilers got the Nuge to agree to 8 years at 5.125, which is incredible because he's had better seasons statistically than Bo Horvat has at this point in his career. They're around the same age. They both had the potential to be legacy players. So I can understand the Canucks coming with that, but the market obviously is telling you something different. He's not going to sign for 5.25. But to me, I think anything higher than about 6.5, you're going to have trouble extracting value from Bo Horvat, who does a lot of good things, but there are areas of his game that at the age of 27, turning 28 in April, he is what he is, and it's not likely that all of a sudden he's going to become this incredible playmaker. And so, that is the concern. And I think any team around the league should be wary, buyer beware. You're getting a good player, but if you think you're getting this complete, sort of low-end 1C or, a really good second-line center, again, there are some things that hold him back in my estimation from being able to command something that would start with an 8. To me, 8 would be a no-go zone, but yet the market, is going to dictate that he's probably going to get something in the high 7s.
Jeff, just last one real quick before we let you go. How's our boy Bruce Boudreau hanging in there? Is he okay?
If they didn't fire him a month ago, man, he's going to be there for maybe life.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yesterday after practice, somebody asked him and said, Bruce, you've been on the job for just over a year. You've seen an awful lot. And he just said, yep. And Bruce, you don't get the one-word answers out of Bruce very often, but I think that kind of said everything without saying a whole lot. His demeanor has changed. Look, none of us would want our boss just beaking constantly, going public and saying some of the things that Jim Rutherford has said. And yet at the same time, if you watch that 7-6 win over Montreal when they were down 4-0 and came all the way back to win in overtime, it was everything that Jim Rutherford had said. Like, there is no structure. They can't defend. And Bruce seems okay with, just kind of letting his horses run wild and hoping that they can outscore their problems, and their power play is elite and among the league's best, and it bails them out on a lot of nights. So Bruce loves offense, but ultimately they do have to tighten things up defensively. So it's been tough. I mean, there has been a change in his demeanor. Hasn't been as happy-go-lucky as he was last year when he was excited to get back in the league and have a job and all those types of things. he's in a tough spot because I think he recognizes that he won't be the coach here next year. It's just a question of will he get to ride this out for the remainder of the season? They probably don't want to pay. They're still paying Travis Green the final year of his deal. So, from an ownership standpoint, they probably don't want to be paying 3 head coaches. So that might give Bruce an opportunity to stick it out to the end of the year. But certainly tough circumstances, and it is never dull. That much is obvious, I think, certainly for those of us that cover the team. But I think the league is on to the Canucks now to know that there's just no shortage of storylines out here on the West Coast.
Jeff, really appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Jeff Patterson, co-host at Rinkwide Podcast in Vancouver.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's a problem now for Vancouver is they're
You don't think they're going to get a pile for Bo Horvat?
No.
Guy's going to score 40 times this year and no one wants to pay for that?
Tell me what a boatload is.
Like a first and a prospect and a fourth. I don't know.
That's a boat?
Load.
That's a boatload?
I don't know. What do you think is a reasonable
First and a mid prospect.
Yeah.
But don't you think that there'd be teams that may be out of the playoff picture that could trade for him too? Like
why would you do that?
Well, if you're maybe going to re-sign him, Kip. If you think he's good,
then
if you
do
like
it in the
player,
summer.
But then, I guess. But you have first right of refusal.
Oh,
you
stop
a better
it.
chance to have a better chance to sell a guy in your system.
The contract's going to hold its own. You don't need to give up a first rounder for first rights of refusal.
Yeah.
Sammy.
I don't know.
The question
player.
I have is,
I'd trade a lot
you think
for
about
You
what
trade a
Foligno
first
went for
rounder
at the
to
deadline.
negotiate first?
No, you're right. You're right.
No,
You're right.
but Kipper, think of like what guys go for at the deadline, what the Leafs gave up for Foligno,
Yeah.
or what happens. Horvat's another tier above that, obviously. No, not obviously.
No. This is rental. There's a market to rent, and who's got more pressure now? Me to overpay on a rental, or you to get rid of them for nothing, or watch you get feathers?
Jeff's right. If I picked up what he was implying, they should trade him now. Like before he gets hurt, he has the most value.
Like before the game against the Flames tonight.
They should trade him at 442.
Which is a TNT game tonight, too.
And here's an issue in itself. Look at your standings, and you tell me who needs to buy Bo Horvat now.
I guess the Leafs aren't in any hurry, are they?
No.
Capitals? They use Bo Horvat? Maybe. Colorado's kind of the one that keeps coming up. But yeah, there's not many teams.
Boston.
You're right. So if you can't go get what you want to get,
Boston
beats everyone all the
Boston's
time.
in no rush. And here's the
Florida?
other thing that I don't
They
think
got nothing to
we
trade.
mentioned, that, Vancouver doesn't want to eat money. So Boston cannot take Bo Horvat, even though that they're going to need somebody.
Vancouver's not going to eat money for half a season?
No, they're not. They don't want any money. As of now, they may have to, but they don't want to take any money on.
Any contender is going to be like.
So who can take him on without needing to get money off a payroll?
Nobody. Well, not many teams.
Not many.
But
and you're going to wait for him in the summer. If you're
there is that too, that return could be greater by retaining money. That could help Vancouver out too. But they would have to admit that they're not trying to make the playoffs then, which they just refuse to do. Even talking to Jeff, and he's saying, I'm not going to say they're out of it yet. A lot of runway left. Their winning percentage is .482. It's a bad team. What kind of fight are you trying to win here? You want to?
Well, I think there's a pretty common theme here throughout every single management group that's been in there in the last decade. They're not all thinking we have to get the final playoff spot here. They're not all thinking the same thing, right? Like there's somebody telling them.
Yeah.
Like you don't think one of these teams, you don't think Alvin would want to blow it up and rebuild? You don't think who was before
any
him?
new management group would love
Benning?
that. That buys you 4 free years if you say we're starting over.
Benning, like everybody crapped all over him, but he probably wanted to blow it up. He probably wanted to. Why do you think he traded for Garland and OLE?
We're having the Aquilini talk, are we?
You've been trying forever to get rid of Connor Garland. You cannot give him away right now
Didn't
in that
they re-sign
contract.
him like the day after they got him?
Yeah.
Or quickly after?
You know which one really stings hard right now?
Is it Tyler Myers?
No.
Is it
Arizona. OEL.
Oh, OEL. Yeah.
Take a look at what what's left on that deal.
Well, the guys they traded to Arizona would be gone by now. It was like Jay Beagle, like would they be off? It was Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel and all these guys that would be. Oh, Louis Erickson, wasn't it? But those guys would just be off the cap, and they would just have that cap space.
OEL has
Oh my God.
1, 2, 4 more years at 7-2.
No more, Kipper. 8-2.
Oh, am I reading it wrong?
And he hasn't
Oh,
been.
I'm sorry. I was looking at Tyler Myers.
Oh no! Is he making 7?
Oh my
I thought he was
gosh.
6.
No, he's 6.
He's 6.
7-2. Oh, I was right. 7-2. Did I say 7-1?
Who are you talking about here?
OEL.
I'm
Oliver
looking at
Ekman-Larsson.
I'm looking at Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who signed a 8-year, $66 million contract
Yes.
on July
But I'm
1st,
just saying he's got
2018.
7.26 left till 26-27
It's 8.25 on cap friendly.
on the AAV.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a bonus involved somewhere.
Yeah, but the AAV is 8.25 for one.
And then
two,
you
three,
got
four,
I'm
another
seeing
year-
what Kipper's seeing.
I got
I'm seeing
another year at
7.26 as well.
I got another
on
year at
cap friendly.
for Tyler Myers at $6 million. Like that's
If
like you
if you
can't breathe
click
with
on
those
his
contracts.
contract, it does say his cap hit is 8.25.
Yeah, it is 8.25. It is.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, something's
But
going
that
on there.
one was he was supposed to come in and be a difference maker. Everybody said if this guy was not in Arizona,
Mhm.
he would run for a Norris.
Right,
Do you remember that conversation?
I do. Yeah. well-
Arizona retained 990,000 of the
Oh, there's some
contract.
retention for Arizona. So the
Ooh.
Canucks hit is 7.2 whatever.
Not even $1 million they could get retained,
No.
there, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. So yeah, that is certainly hurting their chances and their flexibility. And also he has a NMC, no move all these years. So
Bergeron and Krejci will retire after this season, so Bo Horvat signing there would make sense. Would it
yeah,
not?
that's actually a super easy fit, isn't
Hold
it?
on. Is that true? Bergeron's going to retire after this?
Stop. What did you just say?
Do you mean so? Your summer is going to be much better now
Well,
if they do.
if the Leafs win
If
a
he
couple,
wins a Selke trophy and you think he's going to retire?
the Leafs win a couple playoff
I
rounds.
can't see
and
them coming back for
and
another year.
He retired.
This is
will be
it.
the greatest summer of my life.
They gotta win the cup this year. That's why they came back for another shot at winning the cup.
He would be one of the all-time in terms of retiring while you're still good and while you're still physically able to play. Bergeron winning a Selke, playing like this for the Bruins and packing it in would be an all-timer for me.
He doesn't seem like the guy that wants to just keep hanging on
I
year by
love
year.
that. I respect that.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Kipper, he's not holding on. He's unbelievable. He's one of the best players in the league and the best team in the league.
I know, but he's so good and he's so smart. It's almost like, I'm bored now. I want to go do something else. That's how cool he is.
Ugh,
Respect. He's
sickens me.
22 points in 28 games, slowing down a little. He's already got 10 snipes though.
Oh, yeah,
He's gonna
slowing
get
right
30.
down.
He's gonna get 30 again this year.
Slowing right down.
Detroit, lots of talk about Bo Horvat maybe being
Really?
a fit in Detroit.
Detroit, Boston, Colorado doesn't have room after this
no,
year.
Colorado would be strictly
They're a rental.
renting that guy. And and you don't even want to trade a first rounder unless you know it's going to be kind of 18 to 30,
Yeah,
right? You're not
not a high.
not trading a top 10, 12 first round. You don't envision if you're a team and you have that type of pick. Well, you would never give up a lottery
Feels
pick.
like Bo Horvat should be a better defensive player. Like hearing someone like Jeff talk about how he's not,
I like
winning
him.
shutdowns.
I like him a lot.
Yeah,
I'm a Bo Horvat fan for sure.
better than Pontus Holmberg if the Leafs swung a deal, gave up some picks and prospects.
I like Pontus if I can get him for 1.4
The
next year.
Pontus show today.
I like him at 1.4 next year
Yeah.
from Kyle Dubas.
By the way, Patrice Bergeron has been a captain on the Bruins since 2006. It was his second year in the league, and they gave him a letter. Third year in the league.
Did you lose respect when he,
No to whatever
Protect-
you're going to say next.
watched Vancouver share a pretend Stanley Cup.
Forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't hear that from him.
No, we did hear that from him. I'm sure that's gone now. That story, right?
Yeah. So should we talk about the Bruins never losing?
Yeah.
It's remarkable to me that the Leafs have not lost a game in regulation since.
Sam's dead. Sam just died. Oh no.
I've been eating popcorn back here,
Listen,
and I just got a kernel, and I just
buddy, I
perished.
one of my earlier years, I was doing junior A games with Kevin Quinn, and I'd always eat food during the
Just Mark Sanchez eating a
in
hot
between-
dog mid-game.
No, popcorn. And I finally got Kevin Quinn to take some popcorn,
Yeah.
and he pulls a Sammy right now
Just
during
choking.
his play-by-play.
Oh
And
man,
I'm slapping his back. I'm lifting him upside down. I'm like, I'm not doing play-by-play, so you better get that kernel out of your throat.
but they haven't lost since Remembrance Day, and
Yeah.
they are still behind the Bruins.
And not just behind, like, 3+ Boston has 2 games at hand
Yeah,
in
they're-
hand, like
they're
they're
3
potentially 7 behind.
Yeah, 3 points up. It's just I can't believe they're this good.
I know. It is a little
So
surprising.
who's going to hit a skid first, Boston or Toronto?
Toronto show here. Might want to answer this one wisely. The Bruins. The Bruins are due to back it up a little bit. I'd love to say that if you look at their underlying numbers, they're not XYZ or whatever, but like they're just so good. It is interesting to me that Anaheim had those 2 defensemen, Josh Manson and Hampus Lindholm, and there was some jockeying to get them, but the 2 guys have been huge impacts on their respective teams. Like the Avs don't win a cup without Josh Manson last year, and Hampus Lindholm's been unbelievable with the Bruins.
Are you sure that they don't win a cup without
Yeah, he
Josh
was
Manson?
that element for them. He was
Okay.
that physical guy that
All right.
made them tough to play back there. He hit people. I know he played
I wouldn't
14 minutes a night or
definitively say
something.
no,
Yeah, okay.
but I get it.
He
I
was
liked
something.
him.
He was something they needed. Something the Leafs certainly could have used were he interested in playing in Canada. But yes, Bruins very good. On our list of things to discuss. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like now, if you look at the Boston Bruins, I every time I see a highlight, I'm seeing something involved with, Nick Foligno. I'm seeing the name AJ Greer. I mean, they just look like right now they're just rolling with
Yeah.
everybody.
Did you see the shootout goal that your boy David Pastrnak scored last night,
Oh my goodness.
Kipper?
He
It is
didn't.
so like because
He's just filthy.
all these guys with the shootouts try the same thing now, where they come in way far on the left side or the right side. They slow it right down, and then they kind of go really quick in front of the net. Did you see it? Here you go. You
Here
can
we
watch
go.
it.
Yeah, he's still slow. You get your stick to the middle. It's the little over the he just about broke his wrist 6 times on the deke that he
I just love a little creativity, something I've never seen before, and that's close to one I've never seen before.
Yeah. No, I mean Kipper knows he's good.
I know, but I hate to praise him, but it was really nice.
I love that he touches the puck once or twice in the whole deke. There's
Yeah.
so much going on with the shoulders and hands and leaning and
Oh yeah.
yeah, he's pretty nasty. One thing on our list to talk about,
So
guys,
good.
was Ilya Samsonov gets the belt.
Oh yeah. We
For
didn't
the
talk-
Toronto
we didn't-
Maple Leafs
we didn't
for the
play these
first
clips.
time. He's played 11 games at Leaf, never got the belt. Let's hear what Ilya Samsonov thought of getting the belt.
A long time I wait. Half year. 11 games. I'm enjoying. I will be go sleep with this.
It's not the Stanley Cup, but
I will go sleep to it.
you can sleep with it.
I'm so
A long
happy.
time. I'm so happy. He's my favorite. He's better than Jack Campbell for us in interviews. In fact, he also weighed in on Mitch Marner.
Yeah, just move on.
Kick a guy when he's down.
They
Jack
got a
was
win
our
last night.
favorite too.
He got a win last night.
He did, and I think he's up to a 900 save percentage on the season. So kudos to
It's nice that he has kind of played that role though, that kind of relief a little bit.
that happy element. He's the
Yeah.
he's the levity in our little drama here. He's great for us. Let's listen to him talking about.
And
Oh,
I was just going to say, like,
He is not up
don't
to a
over rely.
900
We can
save
crap all over Anaheim, but early he made some saves.
oh yeah, he made that breakaway save.
Right?
He actually caught and held on to.
Just-
He,
Just as a quick note, not up to 900. He's at 875.
875.
Yeah.
Oh, I think he was up to 900 for the game. And I saw someone tweeting about it.
What his save percentage,
Yeah.
Jax?
875 on the year.
He'd have to make 88 straight saves to get up.
Okay. All right.
There's
sorry about
always a chance because he's got Connor McDavid and Draisaitl every night.
that. The play should be at the other end of the rink the whole
right?
time.
McJesus.
All right. Here's Samsonov on Mitch Marner getting to 23 games straight.
Yeah, you remember what I said?
I know.
Yeah. I believe for sure. A little bit more. 23, almost 50, yeah?
Almost.
23, almost 50, yeah?
I love this guy.
You heard what I said. I think Mitch could go another 10, 15 games.
Yeah, I think Thursday will be a tough one.
You do, eh?
Yeah, Rangers are underachieving. They're good. It's not like they're not. They're in the second wild card spot now. They've won 4 in a row. They're kind of starting to look like the Rangers a little bit.
Mitch is getting good looks.
Oh, listen, he's
like,
one of the best players in the league. But
if these guys really bear down, like there's so many points that Mitch leaves on the table because guys just aren't finishing.
Yeah, they scored 7 times last night. You're right. Well, their line didn't get it. What they get? 2 goals last night? Something like that? Yeah. They're
Right.
there.
Anyways,
John Tavares just like, so the Marner on my line thing, how long can we do that?
never
how
changing,
many
right?
tap-ins has he had off the
gotta-
blue paint?
It's a nice compliment because he goes there.
Yes.
You know, like he's a guy who parks it in the blue and
Yeah.
Mitch, everyone gets their attention drawn to Mitch. And then all of a sudden John has it and they're like, oh, I guess there's another dash.
He is the point per game guy.
Tavares.
Tavares.
Was he a 30 and 30?
His whole career.
30 points in 30 games. He has 925 and 979 career games.
Yeah.
JP does not call him a superstar on Toronto. Would you say he's like a good role player?
No,
a
I said he
plugger?
was added differently. The other 3 were
depth.
drafted.
Yeah.
He was added differently.
He's,
Is all I said.
he's
Good
an
depth.
$11 million plugger. Look at him. He grinds, man. He's a
I got
working his
radio
bag off.
by my co-host.
That's what you respect about him, though. Is every night he is working his bag off.
He
He
does.
digs his way to the front of the net. He's a horse on the sideboards.
Does whatever he's got to do to get that 1 point per game.
Yes, sir.
All right, our thanks to Mike McKenna, Jeff Patterson. Fun show today.
Yep.
Sellies, 800 goals.
Good show.
Bo
Good show
Horvat.
today. We could give her one of these today, Kip.
Or
Pat on the back.
another windmill.
Yeah, sure. Sell it out.
All
if you
right.
want.
And if you've been watching, hit the like button. Give us a rating and review as well. We love to hear from you. We're back tomorrow on Real Kyper and Bourne. Have a safe night, everybody.
What's the difference between looking good and looking great? 2 words, Carpe Diem. It's the new and reimagined men's clothing store on the Danforth, where a menswear expert will help you find brand name gifts this holiday season. It's a one-stop men's shop where you can avoid the mall crowd.